go. All right, I am recording.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hat-Trick Sports Talk. I'm here with my good friend Brandon. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good for how I could be.
Yeah, pretty crazy situation. We are now doing the show on Zoom, so you probably are listening to this via the podcast, or I might even put this up on YouTube as well. We'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but
at
let's
least
get
we're still
started.
here.
Yeah, at least we're here doing the show. Shane is off doing very important stuff, more important stuff than the show. So it's just me and Brannan today. But let's get started with some news. So first, of course, Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brannan, your thoughts on Brady to the Bucs?
I actually think at first when I heard the news, I thought it was ridiculous because I thought Tom Brady would get ruined by going to the Bucs after having been with the Patriots for so long. But if you really break it down and you look at if you look at the Bucs as a team, they have pretty good receiver core, pretty good linemen, and a pretty good defense. It doesn't really surprise me that Brady would have gone to the Bucs to begin with.
Yeah, it's really strange for me because as we talked about throughout the last few months on our show with you and even with Shane, we talked about where would Brady go, and we saw, okay, he'll probably go back to the Patriots more than likely. Then here's the Chargers, here's the Raiders, and then I guess the crazy stretch of the imagination for the last week, it's been all Buccaneers. Like it just sort of a wild card got thrown in there that I don't think you and I really expected at all.
Well, I think part of it is that the Buccaneers didn't know what they wanted to do for until the last couple weeks, really. I think they were truly still on the do we go with Jameis Winston and give him another chance? But I think once Brady really started being like, hey, I don't want to go back to the Patriots. I don't want to go to the Titans. I don't want to go anywhere else. I
I
mean,
think more than likely it was that teams like the Titans and even the Niners were like, we're not interested. Like the Titans, we
yeah.
got our guy. Ryan Tannehill's our guy. Niners, Garoppolo's our guy. Like the Niners were his top choice based on all accounts.
Which
And
I don't really understand that because he would have been a backup.
well, I don't think Brady would have been a backup. I think more than likely Garoppolo would have gotten cut because it only would have cost them what, $20 million in dead cap. If there was any year the
Yeah.
Niners would have cut Garoppolo, it would have been this year. But
I actually think Garoppolo is a really good fit for the Niners, though.
yeah, I'm glad that they didn't make that decision because and to be fair, when you look at Brady, I think the biggest determining factor with a lot of these teams is his age. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to be 43 when the season starts. The fact of the matter is the Bucs only signed him for 2 years, and I mean, what I don't know what the long-term plan is for Tampa Bay, but I don't think they have a long-term plan right now. And I think their defense is really good, but the offensive line is pretty atrocious in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So I think the Bucs now last year they were like, okay, we need to make the playoffs. And now this year with Brady, it's like we need to make a Super Bowl. Like
It's kind of
it's win now mode basically.
there's win now. In a way, it's a little bit like the Seahawks in 2013, the way their team is built, minus having a quarterback who can actually move.
Minus having a young quarterback, because the difference
Yeah,
is
true.
that, okay, Russell was a young quarterback. When you have a young quarterback on a rookie deal, you want to get the best team possible and win because
Yeah.
that's your best opportunity. This is different in the sense, okay, we're giving Brady a bunch of money, but we already have solid pieces, let's say a receiving core, which is what Brady wanted the most, and now he's got it there.
Yeah. But they got to get it done in these 2 years, man. If they don't get it done in the 2 years, they're going to have to break this team down because
And, yeah. And here's another thing as well with this whole Brady thing for me is like, if is it a ridiculous hypothetical to say that by year 2 Brady doesn't look the same? And it's kind of like
I
like
don't think Brady will look the same this year.
no, and he's had a few bad years, but is there a possibility that by the second year of this contract, if they don't get to a Super Bowl next year, which I think you and I both feel like isn't very likely, if we get into year 2 of this in 2021, is there a likelihood that Brady just looks a little bit of a shell of himself and this is the last year of his career and he's done? Or do you think he still has a few more years left in the tank where year 2 they still have a legitimate shot with Brady as their top guy at quarterback?
So here's the thing with Brady for me. Brady for so long was like the top tier QB in the league. And then the last 2 years, he's dropped like down a lot. Like he's gotten like a lot of his like finishing power is gone. Um, I think he's gonna be lucky if he doesn't get battered this year. Like as you
Yeah.
were saying with that O line, man, Brady doesn't. That's one of the reasons he's been so successful in New England is because they've always given him a solid, good O line.
Well, it's also the other piece that I'm concerned about with this move is that he wants to throw the ball deep. You got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, you got guys that are deep guys. You got to throw the ball deep. Brady in the next 2 years, he's got to have time in the pocket and he's got to throw the ball deep down the field. It's not like in New England where it's just 2 seconds throw a short route.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case here. That system does not exist here with Bruce Arians in Tampa Bay. It cannot exist with these 2 receivers on the outside.
I mean, I was rewatching. I rewatched one of the Super Bowls that the Patriots were in. I think it was Pat's. What was it? Pat's Eagles, I think.
Yeah, I'm planning on rewatching that pretty soon
And
as well.
they did and what you were just saying about Tom Brady, he just was able to get down the middle the whole time, just little dink and dunks. I mean, remember came back against when they came back against
Well, Atlanta, right?
Atlanta, he just threw little dink and dunks down the middle to his
Basically
guys.
to
Just
Edelman.
yeah, to Edelman, just the whole field basically.
And Edelman is being rumored to go to Tampa Bay as well, so that would be quite interesting.
I actually think that'd be a really good pickup on a not a big contract, but I think
Well, I
that'd be
mean,
a good.
I think it's an interesting trade piece if they can trade a second or third round pick for him.
Yeah.
Because I think if you look at the Patriots side of this move, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback right now.
Yeah.
You stick with Jarrett Stidham, and if so, I don't know how many players there want to stay there. It seems like it's rebuild time in New England.
Well, yeah, like Jarrett Stidham is not the future in terms of a QB.
No, look, he had a good preseason. I was very impressed with him in the preseason, but even with that, preseason football isn't the same thing. I don't know how this guy
Yeah.
has grown. And then you have maybe Andy Dalton. Cam Newton has generated no interest from reports, which is quite interesting. But we'll get to the Panthers in a little bit. But I'm not sure where they're going to go at quarterback, and I think they're just going to take their time. Or they might say, oh, we're going to just stick with Stidham, and then next year we'll go after Trevor Lawrence, which I
Yeah.
think is more than likely going to be the case.
That scares me, man. I'll be honest. I don't want the Patriots to have Trevor Lawrence.
I don't know. It's just a hypothetical, man. That's all I'm putting out there.
So here's I just pulled up the offensive line that going back to that Tampa Bay has. I'm gonna read off the players for you: Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, DeMar Dotson.
Yeah.
None of those. The only player that actually has had success is Ali Marpet.
Well, Donovan Smith is like overpaid. They paid him
100%.
so much money 3 years ago, or like what was it? He's completely overpaid.
I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the only team in the league that overpays their linemen more than Seattle does.
Yeah, and we'll get to Seattle and some of their moves in a bit as well. But let's move on to the Colts getting Phillip Rivers. I love this move probably more than any other quarterback move made this offseason. It's a great fit.
I mean, do I believe Phillip Rivers should still be in the league? No.
I don't think you can say that about Brady. I think Brady should be retired already.
No, that's what I was going to say. I mean, look, like, do I believe Brady should still be in the league? No. Do I believe Rivers should be in the league? No. Do I think Roethlisberger should be in the league. No. But
Probably
here's
not.
the thing. Of all three of those players, the player who uses brain the best in terms of thinking about the fact that he's old is Rivers. I mean, as you said, I do believe I mean, he's gone to a team with arguably one of the best, well, building O-line.
And they just
They've
got the
added some
Forrest Buckner
pieces.
too. They
Yeah,
just got the Forrest Buckner, which I couldn't believe that the Niners
yeah,
give up to
yeah.
Forrest Buckner for. I mean, and I don't know what the Niners are going to do with that. What is it, the 13th overall pick? But getting DeForest Buckner makes that O-line pretty good. And then you have Darius Leonard, who's been excellent. He kind of slowed down a little bit last year in his second year in the NFL. But the Colts are – I don't think they're going to make a Super Bowl, but they might make a good playoff run in the next year with Rivers. Remember, it's a one-year contract with Rivers. So it's very, very short-term for them.
Oh, I get it. San Francisco, so with the 13th pick, right? San Francisco is probably going for C.J. Henderson.
Maybe.
They're trying to use the opportunity to get a good cornerback to have Richard Sherman teach him his ways.
Well, can't you get a guy like CeeDee Lamb and then get a guy like AJ Terrell with the 30th pick?
Yeah, but you know San Francisco. Look, you have to remember who their GM is.
John Lynch, defense, yeah.
Yes. So that. Also they're like, not their owner, but like their the guy who used to be, also they have that dude who used to be part of draft nights for NFL Network. He probably is sitting there with a little draft book being like, oh yes, we can do this.
Yeah, I really think they should go receiver corner in the first round. I think if they get one more receiver, try to get like a number one guy, like a straight up number one guy. Because I think for the last 3 years, and I've been big on the Niners for the last 3 years, I think if they get a top flight receiver like a CeeDee Lamb, just throwing a name out there, they are going to be in a good spot.
I don't know, man. Like
maybe Judy
obviously, I think they're still going to be the best, the top option for like making it back to the playoff, winning the division. But
yeah, for sure,
it'll be interesting.
Okay, so we are now getting to probably the weirdest trade of the whole offseason. DeAndre Hopkins has been traded to the Cardinals for David Johnson and a second-round pick going to the Texans. So David Johnson, second-round pick going to the Texans, DeAndre Hopkins, and a fourth going to the Arizona Cardinals. What was this trade?
I would argue that the Texans actually won this trade.
Why would you make that argument?
Because I think DeAndre Hopkins is super old, and he can still play, but like
he's a top 10 receiver, and that's not going to change next year.
I don't know, man. I feel like the Texans needed someone who can actually like do something, and David Johnson needed a change of locale.
He needed a change of scenery, but he's not good. He hasn't been the same player, and he's not going to be the same player for another couple of years. I think this trade made me like – so for Bill O'Brien, right? And Bill O'Brien Bill O'Brien for me, I think is like – I think he's done a really good job at developing Deshaun Watson. But after this trade, I think I'm done with that. I'm done with Bill O'Brien. I'm done with this Texans staff. I really am.
What do you think Deshaun Watson's reaction was when he was told that his number one wide receiver just got shipped off?
I don't know, man.
I'd be pissed. I'd be like, "What are you doing?"
I don't understand. And again, we can talk about the other problems with Bill O'Brien with DeAndre Hopkins, the whole Aaron Hernandez report, which I was just like, what the heck? I think the Texans, and another big problem with the Texans too, is that this is why you don't have a head coach be your GM unless you're Bill Belichick. This is why you don't. Because you think more about, here's a player I don't like or don't have a good relationship with. Let me trade him for whatever.
Right.
And get him out of town instead of rationally having a GM that said, hey, no, let's look at our options, take our time. We have 3-4 months to make a deal. And we could even make a deal in the draft, and you would argue that would expand his value a little bit more. It doesn't really
Right.
make sense.
And like, here's the thing. Like, what's crazy about it to me is obviously the Cardinals are not expecting themselves to like jump the Seahawks um in terms of being like the second best team.
But what you're looking at is like, okay, now we expand the playoffs. The Cardinals
True.
could get 9 wins and put themselves in position to at least make a playoff spot next year. So it
It's
does seem
interesting. It's interesting though, because if what the Cardinals are doing well here is they're reading the room and they're seeing, all right, Seahawks, we got to be honest here, they're getting pretty old. Their quarterback's old, their players are getting up there. 49ers, they're pretty old on offense.
but they're going to be about 3. They're at least have 3 years left.
Yeah. I mean, Seahawks obviously will still have Seahawks don't die. Like, they just replenish and keep going.
Yeah.
The Rams are going to be bottom of the barrel this year.
Yeah, the Rams, like,
I don't know what they're doing.
Getting rid of Gurley. Gurley's in Atlanta. The whole Gurley contract was stupid because they should have just waited a year and then probably let him go. I mean, and then on top of that, I mean, you've been a huge proponent of this more than I have. That salary cap situation, I mean, the amount of people that they cut yesterday.
I saw this coming from the beginning of the season. Like, I've been saying it every time it's come up. Like, they like wrecked their ability to do anything with that Goff contract.
And I don't know what they're going to do with Jalen Ramsey. Don't they still have to pay him a huge bag soon?
Yep.
How's that going to work?
Also, I think I heard something that apparently they still owe Gurley his contract.
Yeah,
like,
they still
money.
They still owe a bunch of dead cap money. Yeah.
I don't know. It's terrible. I think they may be worse than the situation the Hawks were in like 2009.
Yeah.
But,
it's I mean, look, the NFC West, I think for the next 3 or 4 years is going to be run by Seattle, Arizona, and the Niners. And that division is still going to be so much fun to watch next year. Even the Rams are going to be pretty good because I don't know what they're going to do with Goff, but I think they're still probably pretty good. That division as a whole is going to be really good for the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, I'll be honest. As a homer of the Seahawks, like, it's really great for me after having to deal with all the Rams fans being like, we're going to be so good, and me sitting there being like, you're obviously stacking your team with really bad contracts for a one-time run at the Super Bowl. You made your run at the Super Bowl. You got there. You blew it.
Yeah.
And now you have to suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
Because I saw what happened with the Seahawks. Like,
for the Seahawks, though, let's get to that so we can kind of finish off the NFC West. What are the Seahawks doing this offseason?
They don't. But this isn't actually that unusual for the Seahawks. If you think about it, we don't really do much early in the offseason.
This is so bizarre. It's like, okay, we drafted like Jermaine Ifedi, for example, right?
Yes.
And you draft Jermaine Ifedi, not we, but Seahawks drafted Jermaine Ifedi
a long time ago.
A bunch of O linemen, right? And you know how like the Cowboys develop their O line, right? It's like draft, stick with them, develop. And I thought, okay, the Seahawks need to do the same thing. And then they draft guys like Ifedi, and it doesn't work out, and all these guys. And then they go out this offseason and they get guys like Brandon Shell for 2 years. And I'm just like, okay, so now you're just we can't draft good O linemen in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to sign people to some pretty good contracts.
You know who I'm really upset the Seahawks let go? I'm very upset that they let Fant go because he's maybe the most underrated O-lineman we had.
He's not terrible. I mean, I think the Jets got some good value out of him.
Yeah, I mean, here's the great thing about him. He is pretty good on the O-line, and he can also play tight end.
Yeah.
There was one game where he had the most catches. Oh man.
I'm so worried about the Seahawks, partially because it's like, okay, you can't draft in the first 2 rounds. We know you can draft from 3 to 7, but you can't draft in the first 2 virtually.
You can draft in the second. Excuse me.
I guess, but not as much in the first. And then
we're terrible in the first.
So confusing. And then on top of that, I'm starting to really feel like the Seahawks are not going to get Clowney back. I mean, Clowney is not getting a good market at all.
Look, I think the Hawks will get Clowney back just because Clowney thought he was everybody was going to want him. So he's like, I want $1 bajillion. And then nobody was like, hey, bud, no.
I really, honestly, maybe looking at this, I feel like Clowney's going to just wait this market out. And some team's going to be like, oh my God, this guy's really good. Let's just go jump on him.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense.
I think a lot of teams are worried. About whether his core injury from this last year will bother him.
I think teams need to realize Clowney's impact last year was less about the sacks and the tackles, but more about just straight quarterback disruption, which he was still pretty good throughout the entire year. I just don't see why NFL teams don't believe he's worth 18 to 20 million.
So here's an interesting update. Seahawks are apparently very interested in PJ Walker.
Yeah, so PJ Walker's fun because now with the XFL, unfortunately,
done for the year,
the season, all of the XFL players are able to sign with NFL teams, and PJ Walker is going to be so interesting because I expect he'll command a good amount of money just to be a developmental backup quarterback because he's 26 years old.
Yeah,
like he's in a really good spot now to get a good contract from an NFL team.
Oh, speaking of the Hawks, did you hear who asked for a trade?
Oh yeah, Tedrick Thompson. Yeah, he's only gonna get they're only gonna get a fifth or sixth out of him.
Oh man!
All right, let's move forward off the NFC West to the NFC South, where of course the Bucks preside, but the Panthers got Teddy Bridgewater. Do you like this move?
I love that move. I think Teddy Bridgewater showed last year that he can still ball. He can still play and play well, and I think a 3-year, $63 million contract is fair.
Yeah. I think this is a great move for their coaching staff because they know that they're in a rebuild mode, but Matt Rule, I think, is a perfect coach for him for the next 3 years. I think they're in a really good spot as long as they can figure out what to do with Cam Newton, which I think inevitably they're going to cut him and just sort of cut their losses.
Well, I think Cam Newton wants to leave, obviously.
He's pretty pissed off with them.
Yeah. Where do you think Cam Newton would find a spot in the league?
I have no clue. Because, again, no team is really that interested in him. I think.
Well, I know you have here that Mike Florio was reporting that the Chargers are thinking about whether to go after him.
So Mike Florio reported the Chargers. I believe Colin Cowherd reported today. I think a bunch of other sources might have also said this as well, that interest is virtually gone for Cam. I think the Chargers right now are very focused on Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So I think, even though that's not the most perfect move, I think they're also probably going to put themselves in a little bit of a rebuild for the next couple of years. And I can't think of a team. I really cannot. Because I don't think Cam – what is Cam's most prized asset? He's mobile.
Well, he used to be able to run, but he can't anymore.
So that's his prized asset, his ability to run. He doesn't have it anymore.
His arm's decent, but yeah. He's pretty much just a duplicate of Jameis right now.
Yeah. Jameis might have a better market, though. Teams might look at Jameis and say, yeah, he threw the most yards. Yeah, 30 touchdowns, 30 picks, but he still has ability other than the fact he throws interceptions, and we probably won't have to worry about it because he'll be a backup.
That's true.
All right.
I will point out that a lot of people didn't believe that the guy that the Seahawks picked up as a backup last year would ever get picked up by a team again.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
So, I mean, if you've proven that you can win, most teams will pick someone up as a backup just so that if they have someone go down, they can always.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Another interesting running back move, and I'll let you have the floor on this one. The Broncos getting Melvin Gordon.
Uh so Melvin Gordon hates me fantasy wise because I had Eric, you know me.
Hey,
I
we
had
both did a bunch of
I
things.
had I had Eckler this year, the better quarterback. I mean, the better running back. Thank you very much. And they kept putting Melvin Gordon in there, and so I saw someone have a really good post today on Twitter saying, the uh, Chargers recognized that Eckler was better than their first round pick, so they let him go. The Broncos know that they had their current running back was better than their starting
Yeah.
guy, so they let him go and then brought in another guy
They
instead of
still
putting
have
him.
Philip Lindsay. They still have Philip Lindsay, which is why I don't get this at
Yeah,
all.
I don't either. Like the Chargers are going to be so much better off, but the Broncos are not.
See, the problem that I have is like, okay, yeah, Philip Lindsay seems like he's a little getting older a little bit. It
Yeah,
does
but he's
seem
only
like
been in the
that.
league for like what, 2 years?
2 years, but I think he got in the league kind of late. But
Yeah.
even so, it's like you don't need to spend this money. You just don't. I mean, look, it's just how much is this? Let me look. 2 years, $16 million with 13.5 million guaranteed. Yeah, it's not a crazy amount of money, but it's not needed,
Yeah.
especially when you have to pay Joe Flacco's dead cat money, even with the
God.
whole physical thing, which I don't know how that translates to the dead cat, but
Yeah.
how do
I'm
you feel like the
wondering.
Broncos are going to do with Drew Lock next year, though? Are you excited to watch Lock develop a little bit more?
You know, I've gone back and I've watched some of the later games in the season. After he came in to play, and I definitely see what you meant when you said that he played well later on. Um, I think he can. I think he'll be a quarterback that like gets better in his second year.
Yeah, I feel really good about him now. Based on like you watching some of his games, and I've watched pretty much every single one of his games last year. I think he showed flash. He wasn't perfect, right? He still made a lot of rookie mistakes. He wasn't, it wasn't like, oh my God, he's like amazing. It's that okay, we can develop this guy, and I think John Elway sort of saw that.
Well, yeah, and I'll be honest, like with John Elway and young quarterbacks, he hasn't exactly, you know, done an amazing job,
Yeah,
but we'll see.
yeah. So Darius Slay to the Eagles exchanged for a third and a fifth round pick, which is kind of interesting. Plus, he got an extra $30 million, or a contract extension that includes $30 million guaranteed.
Man,
So
Darius Slay is someone I wanted the Seahawks to go after.
I see. I feel like finally with him on the Eagles, people are gonna start giving him a lot more respect they didn't have with the Lions, because when he
Yeah,
was I mean, like he's probably like still a top 5 corner in the NFL, no question.
yeah,
And I think the Eagles got a steal with this trade.
yeah, same.
Third and a fifth round pick, and they need cornerbacks. I mean, they need corners, and they got one for basically nothing. So it's a great move for the Eagles. Do you feel like the Eagles might go after a receiver in the draft, though?
Uh, I think the Eagles need something. That definitely. Yeah, I think if they don't go after a receiver in the draft, they're nuts. Because as we saw last year, they got just torn apart.
Yeah. I mean, injuries were a big factor, but even that, I mean, Carson
Yeah,
Wentz didn't have much help at all. And then
yeah.
the Lions signed Desmond Trufant. So I'm
Is
not
he
gonna.
still in the league?
Well, not it's his brother.
Oh,
I it's his brother. I think
ah,
maybe I spelled it wrong, but um, So the Lions got him, and I really like him, though. I mean, I liked him when he was up at Washington, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he's a really, really good player. And I think
Yeah, no, I think he's really good too.
I'm pretty sure you watched some of him at Washington. What was your impression of him at Washington going into the league?
Well, I mean, man, when he was at Washington, he was part of the classes. He was part of one of those the classes that just like churned out top tier cornerbacks.
Right.
I mean, there was a stretch of 4 years in a row where Washington just had just
Yeah.
top tier defensive ends and secondary players. Like,
Yeah, for sure. The
so,
playoff years, basically.
yeah, basically.
And I look at this deal for the Lions and I go, yeah, it's not as good as Darius Slay, but it's pretty good value to get a pretty good corner that I think still has a little bit more development left.
Yeah,
All right, so Nick Foles going to the Bears. What are the Bears doing?
I don't know.
I,
I think the Bears don't know what they're doing at all.
it doesn't like can we just move off Trubisky and draft a quarterback already?
Yeah, I
The
it
simplest way to fix this problem is to draft one.
it feels like they need a new GM, to be honest. You
It,
know, it just it's not working.
yeah, it's weird because it's like now that we have the whole Tannehill model, this is basically the Tannehill model. And
Yeah,
what's even weirder is that they restructured his contract to make the deal better. To make the Nick Foles contract better, they restructured it to make the contract better, which makes no sense. So still has the same amount of money guaranteed, but he made the contract better due to his ability to opt out a little bit more, to be able to opt out of the deal and still make the same amount of money, which doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Bears from like a contract perspective.
yeah,
And this is from ESPN's Adam Schefter, but it's I feel like they're going to get to a point where they're going to be so much more committed to Nick Foles than Trubisky, because I don't think you or I feel that Trubisky is their long-term answer or the fact that he'll get motivated by this at all.
well, I don't think he's long for the league at all. Like, something psychological happened with him, and I don't know what his deal is anymore.
I think partially is he came into the league with not enough experience, and the staff there with John Fox, I believe, his first year there. I think just right away he needed a year off to get used to the NFL game, and they just kind of tossed him out there without kind of helping him understand what's going on. And then eventually by year 3, year 4, I think he's just not at the right spot to even understand defenses.
Yeah, if you remember, he had 1 year where he's really good.
Look, and not to say that Trubisky doesn't have good games. I mean, that's the weird part is like
Yeah,
Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving against the Lions, he had a solid game. He had one of the best games of his of
yeah,
that whole. I think that was the best game of the whole season last year on national TV. And it's like, okay, this guy's shown flashes, but flashes aren't enough. You have to be consistent in this league to spend a long time and make a lot of money. And he's still on a pretty good rookie contract, but that will eventually be gone. And then I think more than likely he's just a serviceable backup.
yeah. I don't think the Bears have anybody right now who can be their long term starting quarterback.
You know? And I think they're just sort of, I think a lot of people have said the same thing, but I think they're just in denial
Yep.
about what they want to do at the quarterback position. Last sort of thing on my list here before we can do some sort. We'll talk about NFL Game Pass. Of course, you mentioned you're watching a lot of older games as sort of as I am as well, and some other stuff. And then we can sort of riff off after that. The final thing sort of on the docket here is Chris Harris going to the Chargers. Do you like that move?
You know, I think the Chargers benefit from it. Um, I'm sure Chris Harris enjoys the money he's getting,
Yeah, 2 years,
but
20 mil, pretty good.
you know, I it'll be fine. He's kind of old, but
I think the Broncos should have let him go earlier. Once they
yeah,
let go of Aqib Talib, they should have let him go too.
yeah. But well, he's one of those players that like still has moments of success.
Yeah. So with NFL Game Pass, there's now a free trial for Game Pass till I think late May, early June, whatever it is. I believe it's May 31st. What games have you been watching on Game Pass, and have you enjoyed it as much as I have?
I have been going through uh I've been going through the 2013 season of the Seahawks. Uh I watched the Panthers game and that I think I started the second game. Yeah. And then of course I went back and watched the Patriots game against the Eagles. And I watched the Seahawks versus the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I've been watching a bunch of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, so one of the cool things they have on Game Pass is like condensed games. So you get games in like 45 minutes to an hour, which
Yeah,
is
I noticed that.
what?
I noticed that.
Yeah. And I've been watching like a ton of games. My favorite game to watch, um, I think I put this in our chat as well. Lions Eagles, that 2013 Week 14 game where it's just pouring down snow like crazy.
Yeah.
That was like so because I was like still I think I was like 12, 13, and like I remember watching that game going, this is ridiculous, and then watching it again was like, what the heck. One Seahawks game in particular that you and I have talked about before that I went back and watched was the Blair Walsh missed field goal game.
Oh man.
Another one of those like cold weather games.
Yeah.
I mean, Seahawks defense just absolutely stuffed Adrian Peterson. That was probably AP's like worst game of his career by far.
Yeah. I remember all I remember from that game is after Blair Walsh missed that field goal was I think it was like Earl Thomas or Sherman just lying on the field, just like crying.
Yeah. And then like another Seahawks game that I watched too is the Packers game, the Packers Seahawks game,
Oh
the
yeah.
NFC title game. Russell Wilson, that's like his worst 4 quarters of football ever. It's
Yeah.
absolutely brutal. Like he just throws pick after pick after pick after pick.
You have to admit though that some of those picks were like not his fault.
Not every single one.
Two of
But
those, he had 4 picks
so
to begin the game. 2 of those bounced off of people's hands.
So in terms of let's see. So in terms of Patriots Eagles, this was one of the games that we wanted to do for the rewatchables, and we're probably still going to, or we probably will do that later on. What is your feeling sort of watching some of these older Patriots games again, including that Eagles game? And like, what is your thoughts sort of thinking about Tom Brady and his time with New England?
It made me realize that Tom Brady, for as good as he was kind of held up by the players around him
Yeah.
a lot. Like that Eagles Patriots game, I realized like, man, like that was a year that Brady just did not have that many weapons to get it done.
Yeah.
So
Much about Brady's career is that.
yeah.
And I think people are going to forget that when it's all said and done. But I mean, they were just so limited in terms of talent. And I think eventually that's what caused Brady to be so frustrated last year because it's just there wasn't enough there for him to. There wasn't like a top guy other than Gronk on that offense, and maybe Edelman. But even Edelman can make an argument, as many people have, of that he's sort of a product of that system and of Brady sort of helping his development.
Well, it's also a product of Edelman knowing, like, if he gets open, Brady's going to find him.
Yeah.
So.
What other games have you been looking forward to watching on Game Pass other than a bunch of these old classic Seahawks games? What other games are you looking forward to watching?
It's been a while since I've gone, like, back to, like, 2008, 2009,
Yeah.
2010. So I've been thinking about going back to see, like, what did football look like before like 2011, 2012,
I think we got a glimpse of that in our last rewatchables of
Yeah.
the game and how weird it was to watch.
Yeah. That game was nuts.
Yeah. And then Hard Knocks. So I've been watching the Bucs season. You've been watching the Falcons season. What do you like about Hard Knocks? Because Hard Knocks is one of my favorite series ever.
I love Hard Knocks because you can it gives you a sense of, like, how hard it really is to be a player in the NFL. Like, it's one of those things where you see players who are, like, really good at what they do, but then everybody else is really good at what they do. And it's like one little thing, if you do one little thing not as good as the other person, you get cut.
You get cut. And
So.
I think what's great about Hard Knocks is, like, with all these reality shows out there, this show follows that model of, like, we're going to get you enticed or, like, get you emotionally feeling about a player, and then more than likely they're going to make this horrible mistake. There was one player in the Bucs series, I think the guy McNichols, and he like completely messed up on a blocking scheme, on blocking a guy like twice, and then they're like, "You're done. Like, we're gonna put you on the practice squad," because, and it's like you get so entitled, you want the player to do so well, and then by the end of it, they get cut.
Yeah.
It's like it's set up for you to be sad, but that's what makes Hard Knocks so much fun to watch. Because you're not learning about, guys like Gerald McCoy or Matt Ryan or Julio or whoever. You're not learning about those guys. You are, but you're not learning about them as much as these guys are trying to make it up.
Yeah.
Trying to put themselves in those 53-man rosters. And that's what Hard Knocks does better than almost any other show out there.
And then later in the season, if you're watching it that season, you can go and watch those games and see those players and be like, root for those players that you cheered for who did make the team.
Right. And another couple series on Game Pass. So All or Nothing is on there, which is basically kind of the same sort of thought process as Hard Knocks, but it's during the season.
Right.
So it's during the 17 weeks. One of my favorite ones that I actually watched when it came out, the Arizona Cardinals series, is the best. The Arizona Cardinals All or Nothing series is fantastic because it's just half of it is just Bruce Arians saying the most horrific things of like the F word.
Really?
Yeah, literally it's just him in meetings yelling at his players about mistakes and stuff. But at the same time, it's like you realize how awesome Bruce Arians is as a coach and how unique he is as a coach.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite series. And then another one on Game Pass that's really fun as well is called Undrafted. So again, sort of the same model as Hard Knocks, but it's actually looking at the day-to-day life of an undrafted player and them trying to get into the league.
That's cool.
So there are a couple of cool stuff on there. And then Timeline is fun too. The Timeline, 0 and 26 bucks is amazing. It's so like unbelievable how many games they lost, how bad they looked. It's like imagine not winning a game for literally 2 years straight.
That'd be horrible.
In your first 2 years as a franchise.
Jeez.
So those are a couple recommendations for Game Pass specifically. But what other stuff do you really, really enjoy about Hard Knocks other than sort of the players' pieces? Like, what about the coaches and the staff and all that?
It's interesting to see some of the teams have like really good coaches, and then some of the teams have coaches who just don't care about their players at all. And it's like you see the teams. I can always tell who's going to be more successful if like a head coach seems to really care, and if they don't care, then it's like, ah, man, they don't got it. Like I would love for the Seahawks to do a Hard Knocks, but they never will.
Yeah, because they always pick like mid-level to bad teams.
Well, because they have the thing where like if you made the playoffs, you can't be picked, and if you've made the playoff in the last like 5 years, you can't be picked. And then like there's a bunch. Then if you've done it, you can't be picked for the next like 5 years.
I think it's like I think it's only a 1 year thing because I think at the top of everyone's list for this year's Hard Knocks, which again I
If
think
we even get one.
if hopefully we get one, of course, with all of this. But I think what would be the best Hard Knocks is the Steelers
Ooh.
next year or this year. Steelers Hard Knocks would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I
Big
think
Ben kind of trying to figure himself out, hopefully get back from his injury. And then
yeah, Steelers Miami could be interesting.
Miami could certainly be interesting. I now wish Tampa Bay wasn't in it because
Yeah.
it would have been fun with
Well,
Brady.
what if they did a Pats one?
They might do a Pats one next year, but you know what? I don't think Bill Belichick would like that at all. I think he'd be pissed off.
Yeah. He'd be like doing the whole camera thing. Like I think my favorite of all time is either the very first one with the Ravens or the Jets one.
The Jets one is bizarre.
I love the Jets
Go
one.
get me a snack. Rex Ryan.
Rex Ryan.
That one. I watched a bit of the Ravens one before. I think I watched a little bit of the Cowboys one. The Cowboys one is bizarre.
I hate the Cowboys one just
The
because I don't
Cowboys
like the
one is
Cowboys.
the cowboy lifestyle of Jerry Jones.
The
And
all or nothing that the Cowboys did was interesting.
Mhm. I think the Panthers one made me realize I saw bits and pieces of the Panthers one from last year where it's like, oh, Cam isn't entirely focused on football.
Yeah.
That was like everyone's impression of that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't they do like a more recent Atlanta one too? Like I feel like Atlanta's been on there twice.
I think Atlanta's been on All or Nothing too. I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly, but they might have.
Let's see. Hard Knocks.
Um,
Cincinnati's was interesting.
yeah. Um, wasn't Miami on it a few years ago? I think it might have been like 2011, 2012. Miami was on there.
Miami was 2012.
Yeah. So Miami, if you search up that Miami Hard Knocks, one of the clips that comes up with that one is Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco,
Yeah.
and his like throughout his NFL career, he had a bunch of off the field problems. And one of the off the field issues was like in Hard Knocks. I think it was like some domestic dispute or something pretty bad. And you see the coaching staff trying
Releasing
to
him, yeah.
like what to do. And I was like, this is so like what teams actually go through
Yeah.
players making the most stupidest mistakes possible.
Also like the one where Jeff Ireland informs Vontae Davis he's being traded.
Oh yeah.
And just the way he treated him so poorly.
That entire sequence is so well done by NFL Films.
Yeah, the editing on it is
the sequence is weird because he's like training, right? Like literally he's like out there on the field doing some drills, and then cut to the staff, cut to Joe Philbin and the staff going, the guy just can't cover in man coverage. Like we don't know what to do with his like we don't know how to sort of fix
and then the guy goes on to be like amazing.
Yeah, Vontae was a good player for a long time. Miami with Joe Philbin, those years, like just as a whole, were pretty bad. Like Miami
Yeah.
kind of stuck with him for way too long.
I'd be interested in seeing the Cardinals.
Yeah. Again, I highly recommend the Cardinals All or Nothing series
Yeah.
because it's just like it's quintessential Bruce Arians. It's like if you want to see how Bruce Arians acts as a head coach, and like I mean, all of it's bleeped out anyway. But if
Yeah.
you can see how he acts as a head coach, you're like, oh my god, like it's all over that series. It's
Yeah.
all over it, and like the whole Carson Palmer
Oh man.
era was like in just I thought that was really cool, like seeing Carson and like his demeanor, and then there's
Well,
one great
it's
clip.
interesting because Carson Palmer was on the 2008 Bengals version.
Yeah, and they had this really cool like bucket challenge with the corners, and
Mm.
there's I think Pat Pete had to be in a dinosaur suit, which was really funny. So I mean, there's just a lot of great content on Game Pass. So if you guys
Yeah.
haven't gotten that yet, it's free for the next few months. Go check it out. There's so much good stuff on there.
Yep.
So what else have you been watching during this crazy time that we are in?
Just been watching movies and TV and trying to wait for the sports to come back.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
hoping baseball might come back in an empty stadium at some point.
yeah. What was your reaction on that day?
When all the sports went away.
Yeah, what was that Wednesday? Basically last week.
My reaction was I'm going to be incredibly bored for a long time.
Yeah. It
Like,
was one of the most like bizarre days I've ever had. Like I was literally like doing homework when that
yeah,
happened because I wasn't really too interested in all the games happening that day, but I was extremely excited because the next day we would had I think it was Rockets Lakers was the next day, and I was like, yo, yes, like let's
I felt like it's good that they put a hiatus on it because it allows all the teams to get healthy, or anybody who was sick could be healthy. But like, let's get back at it, guys. Like, y'all can play without fans.
I hope so, man. But with all this stuff going on, I think just give it time, right? We all kind of
Yeah.
I think we all realized on that day how serious this is,
Ugh.
and then we're gonna get to a point eventually where we'll be back pretty soon. But at this point, it's all about keeping everyone safe, and we're gonna get there soon. I hope.
Yep.
So in terms of movies and stuff, what kind of stuff have you been watching so far? What stuff has intrigued you so far? You have any recommendations?
Uh, Not really. I've just been rewatching like a bunch of old stuff that I've watched. Like I've been watching The Office and Parks and Rec, and uh, I started watching the Resident Evil movies
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm doing a podcast on my own where I watch like just random movies and then I talk about them,
Mm-hmm.
called Why Am I Watching This?
That's a
Um,
really great name for the podcast.
yeah. So that's what I'm up to.
Yeah.
I'm just chilling.
Yeah, same with me. I'm watching a lot of Game Pass because there's just so much good content on there. I talked to Shane and I asked him about Star Wars movies. I might try to get into that maybe.
Yeah.
Um, do you remember the movie Dead Poet Society?
Yeah.
I was thinking about watching that film because I've never seen that one.
Really? You've never
I've
seen it?
never seen Dead Poet Society. I know.
Wow.
I haven't seen a lot of like classic films.
Dead
Uh,
Poet Society is great.
yeah. Um, yeah, but other than that, just kind of trying to go through every day. I'm kind of used to this in fairness because I'm kind of a homebody just because I don't know, I just kind of am because I know like, friends are busy and stuff, so I usually just stay at home anyway. So it's just kind of trying to take every day in stride kind of.
Yeah.
All right, so I hope all of you who are listening to the podcast or maybe watching this, I'll try and see if I can put this up on YouTube. Hope this provided you some entertainment during this difficult time that we all are in. And we'll probably be back next week, hopefully, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Brandon, thanks for joining me, and hopefully the whole crew will be back.
Yep. Hopefully we'll have Shane next week.
Yeah,
And
hopefully, and
right.
we'll have a good time. So, again, thanks for joining me. Hope you all are doing well through all of this, and hope this provided you some really fun entertainment. And at least we had some NFL to talk about, which was great. All right. See you, Brandon. Have a great rest of your day, bud.
Yep.
All right. See you guys.